The 10 o'clock news on KTVU FOX 2 starts now.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump facing fresh criticism tonight for his public disagreement with the father of a U.S. Army captain killed in Iraq. And this time, much of that backlash is coming from Trump's fellow Republicans. Good evening, everyone. I'm Frank Mallicoat. And for Frank Somerville.
And I'm Julie Hayner. The Republican presidential candidate seemed to fuel the fire earlier today when he did not back down from his criticism of the soldiers' parents. Trump said Gold Star father Kaiser Khan had no right to criticize him. Trump has also suggested that Mrs. Khan was not allowed to speak at the Democratic convention last week because of her Muslim faith. Republican John McCain, who was taken prisoner during the Vietnam War, said in a statement, "I cannot emphasize enough how deeply I disagree with Mr. Trump's statement. I hope Americans understand that the remarks do not represent the views of our Republican Party, its officers, or candidates." Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, who has endorsed Trump, said many Muslim Americans have served valiantly in our military and made the ultimate sacrifice. Captain Khan was one such brave example. And Chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus, said Gold Star families were precious and are to be honored, loved, and cherished. He also said the Khans should be off limits.
At a campaign stop in Ohio and Pennsylvania, Trump made no mention of the controversy. It all began last week when Mr. Khan criticized Trump at the Democratic convention, suggesting that Trump's values did not represent American values, but just a couple of hours ago, during an interview on Fox News, Trump appeared to switch gears and do a little bit of damage control. Trump said he respected Gold Star families. Quote, "Whenever you have the Gold Star families, these are great people, great families, frankly."
A group of Gold Star families who lost loved ones in war have signed a letter calling for Trump to apologize for his comments about the Khan family.
And the letter released today was organized by a Gold Star mother right here in the Bay Area. KTVU's Jana Katsuyama spoke with her this afternoon and joins us with more. Jana?
She lives in Mountain View, and her son, an Army lieutenant, was killed in Iraq just 1 week before the Khan family lost their son. She also hopes that more Republicans will speak out in support of the Khan family.
Yeah, they all share such a deep connection.
Very deep, yes.
Jana, thank you.
And this afternoon, the California State Assembly voted to designate August as Muslim Appreciation and Awareness Month. The gesture is largely symbolic. Supporters say it's a welcome dedication, though, given the current political climate, and many Muslims in California are embracing it as an important step forward.
People need to see us beyond our faith. We are Muslims, but we are human beings, too. We are just like anybody else.
Assemblyman Bill Quirk out of Hayward authored the resolution. He says the timing of it, along with Trump's comments, is purely coincidental.
Tony Chaplin to be a guest speaker on the panel, but that the police.
Okay, we lost her, but we'll move on here. A convicted felon was charged today with attempted murder for allegedly shooting at an Oakland police sergeant. On July the 23rd, Sergeant Nadia Clark was driving her police cruiser when she was involved in a crash. Prosecutors say 30-year-old Marcus Moss heard the crash, ran to the scene, and was heard making anti-police statements at that scene. Police say he then fired at Sergeant Clark with a handgun as she was trapped inside the car by the airbag. She wasn't hit. Moss fled the scene and was later arrested in Stockton. Two minor earthquakes rattling the North Bay this afternoon. The first was a magnitude 3.3 quake centered northwest of Yountville in Napa County. That earthquake hit about 4:30, and about an hour later, a 3.0 hit closer to American Canyon. Both earthquakes were felt across Napa and Sonoma counties. Both were small, with no reports of any damage. Cooler weather in the forecast this week could help a small army of firefighters battling the Soberanes fire in Monterey County, north of Big Sur. The latest update from CAL FIRE shows 40,000 acres have been burned with 18% containment. Late this afternoon, officials lifted the mandatory evacuation order for Carmel Highlands. 57 homes have been lost in that fire. And smoke from the Soberanes fire is threatening to damage the grape harvest in the Carmel Valley.
Actually, it won't mean that our whole crop is wiped out. For Carmel Valley, it will only mean that probably some of their big reds have to be altered a little bit.
The grapes can absorb the smoke from the fire, affecting the taste of the wine, but experts say Carmel Valley has a long enough growing season that most of the grapes will hopefully ripen after the fire is out and the smoke has cleared. And up first, county leaders convene at a meeting about the chronic problems at a psychiatric hospital exposed by KTVU. Why change is taking even longer.
I don't know if they saw the Cujo side of him. I really don't.
And at 10:30, a man attacked by a dog he had just adopted. How this incident is raising concerns about no-kill policies and dogs that shouldn't be adopted.
There was word today that a San Francisco man was one of 3 people who died over the weekend at the Hard Summer Music Festival down in San Bernardino County. The 2-day rave drew almost 150,000 people to the Auto Club Speedway in Fontana. Total of 9 people transported to the hospital. And among those who died was 22-year-old Derek Lee of San Francisco. The other 2 victims were both young women from San Diego and Chino Hills. Coroner has not yet determined a cause of death. Authorities say more than 300 people, though, were arrested, mostly for public intoxication.
The NTSB released new information today about a hot air balloon accident in Texas that killed 16 people. The balloon hit high-tension power lines before crashing into a pasture about 60 miles outside San Antonio. Investigators say the most recent inspection of the balloon last September found no evidence of any issues. They also say the pilot checked the weather forecast the day before and sent up a trial balloon before the trip to check the wind direction.
They put up a trial balloon, literally a trial balloon. It's a 15-inch balloon, helium-filled balloon that they release so that they can literally watch and see what the winds are doing.
There are reports the balloon pilot, Alfred Skip Nichols, had at least 4 DUI convictions and was a recovering alcoholic. Nichols' former girlfriend said he never piloted a balloon while intoxicated.
And that crash is raising some concerns about the safety of hot air balloon rides here in the Bay Area. As
KTVU's Christina Rendon found out, hot air balloon pilots are not subject to all of the same regulations as airline pilots.
Well, a stunning revelation about some of San Francisco's priciest condos. We're going to tell you about a skyscraper that's sinking and who is pointing the blame.
Also had the Giants and A's make some last-minute trades. A fan favorite is leaving Oakland, while the Giants get a pair of pitchers for the stretch run. Mark will run down the deals coming up a little bit later in sports.
But up first, another shooting on a Bay Area freeway that makes 3 dozen in 9 months. Why the CHP says these cases are so hard to solve when we come back. The 4 victims on board a medical plane that crashed on its way from Crescent City to Oakland last Friday have now been identified, and all are from Crescent City. The pilot reported smoke in the cockpit and tried flying the plane back to Crescent City. The wreckage was found just north of McKinleyville. Humboldt County officials identified the victims today as 54-year-old pilot Larry Mills, 49-year-old nurse Deborah Kroon, 30-year-old paramedic Michelle Tarwater, and their patient, 35-year-old April Rodriguez.
The Centers for Disease Control is telling pregnant women not to travel to a neighborhood north of Miami after more than a dozen cases of Zika were discovered. It's the first time the CDC has warned people not to travel in the U.S. because of an outbreak of an infectious disease. The warning affects a 1 square mile area north of downtown Miami where at least 14 people have been infected. Florida Governor Rick Scott says that pregnant women should avoid that specific area and that pregnant women who live there should take precautions to avoid being bitten by mosquitoes.
We've tested now about 2,300 individuals around the state. In that one geographic area we've now tested about 200 individuals, and that's how we found the additional cases.
The virus, which can also spread through sexual contact, can cause severe birth defects. More than 1,600 people on the U.S. mainland have been infected with the Zika virus, but almost all of them contracted the virus while traveling outside the U.S.
A big day for San Jose State University as it brings back a sports program cut 3 decades ago. Its historical significance as we show you footage from the 1968 Summer Olympic Games.
But up first, a dog attacks just 1 day after being adopted. You're going to hear from the victim and find out how his story is now prompting some concerns about no-kill policies. New at 10, imagine taking a dog home from a shelter and having it attack you only hours later. Well, it happened to a Benicia man, sent him to the hospital with serious bite wounds, and it raises questions about why that dog was adopted in the first place. KTVU's Deborah Villalone is live in Martinez where that German Shepherd came from. Good evening.
Good evening. This shelter, like any, wants to euthanize as few dogs as possible and find homes for as many as possible. But now the director plans changes after the mauling a week ago.
As I stood, he went at me.
Leif Arneson will always wonder why the dog he adopted turned on him the next day.
This was a pretty deep slash right here.
Arneson needed 30 stitches on his arms and wrists, but he's glad it was him, not his wife.
If the dog attacked me, there's no way I will be fought off. There's no way.
They were both in the backyard with Fraser, a German Shepherd stray who'd been calm and friendly until then. Adopting him, they were told he had some aggressive tendencies, but they say it was downplayed.
But it never said that he had attacked a human being before, or even another dog.
It turns out Fraser, during his 2 weeks in the shelter, couldn't even be approached by staff.
Couldn't touch him. We couldn't come anywhere near to give any kind of thorough medical exam because the dog would not let us.
Contra Costa's head vet says even after Fraser tried to bite a trainer in the face, he remained adoptable. A trend he sees everywhere, as shelters are judged by their live release rates.
So anything that leaves alive makes it look better statistically.
But is the public being put at risk?
I think so.
I can honestly tell you, I would have taken Fraser home.
The Animal Services Director notes she handled Fraser when he first arrived and had no qualms about him, but says it's impossible to predict triggers from a dog's past experience. And aggression in a kennel, she says, doesn't necessarily mean a dog won't do well in a home.
It's a balancing point of, do you, overcorrect and you euthanize any animal that shows any kind of negative behavior?
Instead, dogs with issues like Fraser are offered to transfer partners, rescue groups who often know the breed and where to find suitable adopters. Rescuers rallied for Fraser on social media. Appeals to keep him from being euthanized were urgent and emotional, and the Arnesons answered.
And we went down to the ground. I was sitting on his chest.
Never imagining having to fight Fraser off.
So I was able to grab his mouth and pry it open.
Shoving a stick between his jaws.
Well, right here, you can see the teeth marks. That's all from him.
The Arnesons don't actually blame the dog, but a system that seemed to favor placement over public safety.
They say they are so backed up with so many dogs, they don't really have a time to evaluate maybe completely.
Director Ward says she is deeply sorry this happened, and as an immediate step, she plans to triple the number of behaviorists so that dogs get even more thorough attention. Frank Fraser was brought back here to the animal shelter and euthanized the day that this happened.
We were just talking, it's a good thing that family didn't have kids or they weren't nearby. That could have been really bad. All right, Deborah Villalone, live for us
big dog.
In Benicia. Thank you so much. Today is a historic day for San Jose State University as school officials announced the return of men's track and field after nearly a 30-year absence. Back in its heyday, the program produced some of the fastest men in the world. KTVU's Asna Smith is live at San Jose State now, where she spoke to the alumni honored to be a part of today's big announcement. Asna?
Well, the timing couldn't be better for this with the Summer Olympics just 4 days away.
I believe that was 50 years ago, Mexico City. And I kind of remember it. That's really hard to believe.
They left a lasting impression,
that's
really
for
sure.
Yeah.
Well, coming up, a disturbing discovery on a Bay Area hiking trail, the spiked stick that may be the result of an ongoing feud.
Only expected for your Tuesday. I'll have a look at what you can expect for tomorrow, and in the extended forecast, additional cooling coming our way. More on that in just a bit.
All right, Rosemary, and one of the newest buildings on San Francisco skyline is sinking. The revelation that set up a legal battle for years to come when we come back. City of San Jose has taken the city of Santa Clara to court. At issue is City Place, a $6.5 billion project in Santa Clara, which is expected to include hotels, department stores, and restaurants. Now, it's meant to rival San Jose's Santana Row, but San Jose filed a lawsuit in Superior Court last week claiming that the impact of the project on the area's traffic and housing have not been adequately examined. Santa Clara's mayor has called the lawsuit disappointing and short-sighted.
Allegations of excessive force against a Bay Area Sheriff's Department coming up. The lawsuit now filed over how deputies subdued a suspect.
And meteorologist Rosemary Orozco is tracking a cooling trend in our forecast. She's back with your full forecast coming up. right after the break. The man beaten by Alameda County Sheriff's deputies has filed a lawsuit against the department claiming excessive force. 2 deputies have been charged with assaulting Stanislav Petrov after they were caught on video beating him at the end of a car chase in this alley in San Francisco. A 3rd deputy, Sean Osborne, was fired last Friday after video caught him holding what appears to be a gold chain that belonged to Petrov. Now, a homeless couple told KTVU they were given that gold chain as hush money because they witnessed the beating. Petrov is convicted felon and is currently in custody on unrelated drug and gun charges. His attorney says Petrov's criminal history, though, doesn't excuse what happened.
This couldn't have happened without a really corrupt culture in that department. And this civil rights case is going to allow us to really dig into that, find out what was going on, and try to fix it.
Alameda County Sheriff's Office did not comment on the lawsuit directly, but did say it's committed to a thorough, fair, and cooperative investigation with all the involved parties.
Considering what it was like last week, and good for firefighters.
Great for firefighters.
Right.
All right, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sports Director Mark Ibanez is next. Lots of trading going on in Major League Baseball. We'll be right back.
All right, there was Mark, and here is Mark. All right.
Yeah.
A crazy trade day in baseball.
You know, some of these deadlines never live up to expectation. Think all kinds of things are going to happen. This one, definitely. All kinds of stuff. Get out the change of address slips, forward the mail, pack the bag, wave goodbye to the neighbor. And for the 49 players involved in 18 trades consummated just today, crazy times. How about Aaron Rodgers right here in a little warm-up? Who's he throwing to? That net right there. Man. I mean, is that accuracy or what?
That's pretty good.
I think that's worth looking at. Slow it down a little bit. Right?
Wow.
Does he get a car or anything?
Net,
and that was from way back.
Yeah, that's about a 50-yard throw right
Holy
there.
moly, man, that's good stuff.
Aaron Rodgers on the money, and if you think that's luck, he could probably do it, I don't know, 5 out of 10 times, which would be sensational for any quarterback.
I love looking
there,
at things like that.
Yeah.
So much fun.
No more Reddick.
Yeah, A's fans, you just have to empathize with their, incredible frustration over this. But, 3 young prospects you have to keep in mind.
They'll get good and go away, too. But that's how it works.
That's right.
It's even harder to have to look at him in a Dodger uniform coming up.
Yeah,
So,
Giant fans not thrilled with that.
AT&T.
Thanks, Mark. And thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good night.